Okay, so this I did say that I wanted to change the name, but didn't make to the final program. But yeah, basically it's the same idea. So I'm Gil Forcada. I'm coming from Catalonia, actually working in Berlin, Germany. Yeah, GitHub, Twitter, and I work at the Freitag. That's a weekly newspaper, and we of course use Plone. Just a quick quiz. Who has ever made a pull request on GitHub? Okay, no, so far. Well, okay, perfect. So, do you know JenkinsPlone.org? No, okay. So, well, the few of you maybe have run this pull request job that we have, Fulvio, yeah, of course. So, there's this package that we have on the GitHub on the Plone GitHub organization called Mr. Roboto. Maybe ever heard about it? Okay, perfect. So everyone says, and it's like the ongoing topic, Plone is hard to contribute to. So once you have, okay, I have that. I know that there's this CSS error here, or there's this small Python, function that it doesn't make what I expect. Then you make a pull request. So if you have if you find the package and the code and the branch and everything, so all the stars are aligned, you can finally make a pull request. But then maybe you have some problems or some uncertainties because maybe you are not so well iterated with the Plone code base and how the project organizes and everything. So, for example, in Plone we have kind of a lot of pride on keeping tests running, and some years ago you could see Timo complaining and raging all around about that. So of course nobody wants an angry Timo. So so you want to make sure that the tests don't fail, or maybe you don't even know to which version are you targeting. Maybe your fix is something Plone 4.3 specific, not Plone 5 or 5.1 that we already have on the working. Maybe you just fixed that small function, or so that CSS or JavaScript, but is there anything else that needs to be added on the pull request? Anything missing? Also, especially for newcomers, we legally cannot accept code if they haven't signed the contributors agreements and all of that. So fortunately, for all these things, before we have Mr. Roboto, which is basically a pyramid app that sits between, or that listens to GitHub activity and then reports back to GitHub and tells also Jenkins to orchestrate everything. It's not everything. It's not everything perfect still. There's few things that could be improved a little bit, but at least whenever you are creating a pull request, for example, it checks if all the people that made commits on that pull request have signed the contributors agreement. It checks if you have made any change on if you updated the changelog entry on changes RST, and it tells you which Plone versions you should run the tests before knowing if anything did broke. There's a few more things, but that's basically the overview of what Mr. Roboto is actually doing. But maybe we could start doing more things. Like, for example, something that we already do, but not on the pull requests, for example, is like code analysis. Well, yeah, in a way it's there. So code analysis reports, documentation, for example, if to a certain size, if you are adding like a really big change on a package, probably that should be documented. Maybe like if you add a complete new module, or if you add a few more things, like a complete new package or a complete like a bulk of code. That's one that I'm tempted to add, that if you add a new pull request with a decent amount of code, but there's no tests being added, probably we shouldn't merge that, because in a way it's so we in Plone we have all this pride about having tests, and we rely on tests to make sure that everything doesn't break and we get notified. But then you keep seeing pull requests and pull requests and pull requests, and basically, I didn't make the numbers, but maybe not even 20 to 30% of them do have tests, maybe 40, so to say. But of course, we need to add tests for when adding new functionality. Of course, if you just change functionality or fix things, again, would be nice to have them, but that's probably something that people used to Travis probably would like to have, that we auto-run tests. Of course, our tests are quite slow to run. Especially the pull request one takes like more than 1 hour and 10-20 minutes, depending on the day. So that's not like really quick and quick feedback, but would be nice that maybe we can find some ideas on how to run that. That's something that GitLab does automatically. If all the tests, if all your integrations run fine, you can check, do a checkbox and mark, okay, this pull request merge it automatically, so you don't even have to do the extra effort. As we are open source, probably we want to get somebody to review the changes before that. But as recently GitHub added this thing about these reviews, that you can approve a review, we could automatically merge if there's at least 1 or 2 reviews, for example, or make sure or force that there has to be a review before actually letting a pull request be merged. Something that Eric will probably love, like that the Jenkins does the releases by themselves. There was a talk early this morning about continuous delivery, and one of the key points on continuous delivery is, of course, not having to do manual releases. That's part of not automatic delivery, continuous delivery. And of course, there could be way more things to be done here. The code is here, and on Mr. Roboto in Jenkins.org we have all the configurations and all the ways to configure our jobs and all the intrications. I can go. I seem to have quite some time still, so I could go a bit more about that. But especially any ideas on everything related to Jenkins and the integration in pull requests that you find yourself that could be improved?
See, I'd step back even
Sure.
a little further.
Yeah.
Because trust me, you don't want me going into GitHub. That's a given. But I do a lot of testing, user testing on it. And when I find either a problem, a bug, or a suggestion, I don't know where to go with that. And I know that I go onto the community and they'll I realize you went into I know the bug trackers and stuff like that. But we talk about removing barriers. I don't know where to go with that. And my feeling is if I go to the wrong place and I've assigned the bug to someone that's not theirs, they're like, I don't know if I'm going to piss them off. I don't know most of these people. And this probably isn't where you were headed, and that's okay. Then I just want to throw it out there.
Sure, no problem.
Some way for, even if you become like a registered super user or whatever the hell, I don't know, like not a programmer, but that I can go somewhere, or we can go somewhere, and put in a bug in a bug tracker, and then someone else figures out where it goes.
Sure. That's one of the problems that's sort of more or less, or well, to put it in, quick answer is that on GitHub we have the Plone organization, GitHub/Plone, and inside there's like thousands of repositories, but there's the product CMF Plone, which is the main repository where bugs are reported. So if you don't know specifically that it's about Plone app content types or about whatever, just report there. Easy shop, easy store, easy place. If you don't, even if you are not really that much sure about if it's really a bug or if it's just you or all these things, you can definitely, and that I would say that even on early stages, so to say, until you feel comfortable with GitHub, so to say, because maybe there people just close the bug with like a small reason, and then you feel like a bit back off. Then community.plone.org is always like people do report there, and then people just like point you to CMF Plone or the specific package or so. There's actually quite a lot of repositories in the GitHub in the Plone GitHub organization that do not have the issue tracker enabled. Mostly to prefer to have that there. Because of course the idea in GitHub is that every repository is king, and that's the whole wall, so to say. It's not for us that we have all our code is spread in so many packages, but we treat all of them as a single Plone thing. That doesn't work. That doesn't fit really well for us. But definitely either report them to community.plone.org, or if you feel more comfortable, to GitHub Plone, CMF Plone, product CMF Plone, sorry.
What if on the product page, whether it's in PyPy or back in the old days when we had a product page, there could be a link to wherever the heck, whoever created that product, where did they want me to make suggestions, bugs? I don't even like calling it a bug, because I'm telling you screwed up, right?
You don't even have to classify. You just need to. You just open the issue and say, "Well, I found this. People opinions, please." Sure. I'm not sure. Victor may say something about that. In Plone.org, do we have any direction page for like, okay, there's a I found a bug or I have something. Okay. 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 Sure. Let's see.
So I'd say the first order of business for you in particular would be to go to plone.org/support, and if anything on there does not lead you to the right in the right direction, then that should be fixed, and you should file an issue about that.
Well, all right, so for bugs, okay, do you mind
So-
following this? Is this
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
Am I hijacking it? But,
Sure.
so let's go to the bugs. So let's say I found a bug on Mosaic, just to pick one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think it's a bug, or whatever it is. So from here, obviously it's not security, or I don't think it is, so
Mm-hmm.
bugs that are not security related.
So it tells you to either go to the specific repository if you know it, or if not, the catch-all CMF Plone. Oh, sorry, I can make that bigger.
I didn't know this page exists, so thank you for showing.
Sure.
So-
Well, that was Victor's, but sure. But yeah, I'm not sure if maybe that should be something that on the control panel on the CMF, on Plone's control panel. Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean that would be like kind of like a nice place. Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Or it's how long we are using GitHub for? Is it 2 years? 3 years?
Maybe even more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, you find something or some bug for the core, then you should go to the issue tracker of on GitHub, on CMS, on product.cmf. And if you find a bug in an add-on, you should, for example, as you mentioned, Mosaic, you should go to the issue tracker of Mosaic.
And is that in PyPy?
No, GitHub as well. It is supposed that all the ecosystem was, because we migrated 3 years ago, should live in GitHub somehow. And every tracker should also live there, because we previously were using a variety of add-ons, or we were using Track for and we were using also some add-ons we were using OI with it.
Yeah.
Through that, but I think that nowadays
Yeah.
everybody is using it for filling issues. And also that
Yeah.
even the fact that we have also a few weeks ago added also that waffle
The project.
that you can get projects on GitHub that you can also use lists, get things done, lists and columns for managing issues.
So
Maybe we can take advantage of that. I don't know if someone created the project.
That's what I'm trying to get to. There's one project already. So there in GitHub now you have this projects tab where you have a Kanban like this, and it's totally configurable. You can have as many columns as you wish, and you can drag and drop things so that you know the status. Well, I mean a Kanban thing. So yeah, definitely that's something also to organize. I have a lightning talk that I want to talk about this actually. But again, even if, for example, you know that it's about Mosaic, and I could tell you that Mosaic is still not core, so probably it should not be on CMF Plone, and especially because Plone Mosaic already has its own tracker as well. But that doesn't matter. Just always, if you don't want to think about it or just don't know, just go to CMF Plone, report there, and mostly people are polite nowadays. So
They can yell at you if they want.
no, but I mean it's
I just
so.
don't wanna cause work.
No, I mean, the extra word that you can cause is just closing it, so no problem. So yeah, that's the.
So Gil, what do you think about, you saw the lightning talk yesterday by that guy who,
Yeah.
German guy.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's probably when I maybe let me just quickly. Maybe this one. Oh yeah, Exactly, for example. So this when you see this logo here on the status of a pull request, if you see this logo, that's from Mr. Roboto. That's what the project I was talking about. So it checks the changelog entry. So they did here on the changes. They did add something here, but then the contributors agreement failed because in this case Nathan just committed with a random ID. Well, not so random, but an ID that's not known for Plone, for GitHub. You can add those names and emails on your configuration, on your user profile.
I think your question though is more for the board.
Yeah,
I talked to one of the guys who runs his company is to help people do their governance, and he said he'll help us get it sorted, but it's going to be like the Americans get to sign it online. The Europeans have to do a physical copy still because it's their laws that are restricting it. So that's we've kept it as one thing, so there aren't two different sets of rules.
I see.
So it's kind of restricted by the Europeans, like the Germans are very strict around it, and we're going by that strictest rule right now.
I see.
We'll bring it back up again at board again, because we bring it up every year, I swear.
Yeah.
So it'll come back around again. He said he'll have his attorney help us once we have a plan, but we don't know that we'll be able to have a plan to get rid of that click a button in your contributor thing.
Yeah.
So because it's more structured by the laws of other countries,
Right.
of the EU and other things. So
Well,
we may be stuck with it for a while.
Well, still, by now, I mean, that was so that was a bit unfortunate because Mr. Roboto, it's enabled on all the repositories, but for the documentation one, doesn't. You don't need to have a contributors agreement. And actually, I think that either this one at that time or another one, I already turned it off. So nowadays, you don't have that. But still, I think that the other problem was that it was pointing. Or not sure if it was on that case, but there was some other times where the following some links or just googling it went up to a place where it was telling you something that was totally updated, and I guess that it's already been fixed. But so far, right now, at least what Paul. Maybe that should not be recorded. But Paul always says that with the PDF it's enough. So you just print, sign, scan, and send.
Yeah.
That's not that much. That's not like perfect, but that's fine. And especially if it's just the first, it's just like one time, not like every year or something like that. But yeah, for example, my idea with, or the idea why Mr. Roboto was created was basically for this thing here, for like running the tests and everything. But we certainly can expand, just like as I was saying before, that documentation, here we can even provide like welcoming messages or where to point to, or maybe if it's we can even like monitor pull requests, and like if like within 3 weeks or a month and there was no activity, then like point to the person if it's still interested, or closing it, things like that. And at the end, the more you automate, the less that you have to think about it, and then everything it's this self-service in a way that, or maybe like if everything is done but nobody merged the pull request, maybe like trying to put some random names, like the few last persons that touched or merged pull requests, like put them on CC on a comment and say, hey, can you, as you were the last ones involved in this package, would you mind getting a review of that, so that we can move things around? Because of course you always have the notifications up here, but after you've seen it, if there's no more activity, it was merged, maybe not, maybe yes, who cares or who knows? And of course for newcomers, probably they don't feel like hey, somebody can look at it? Can you look at it? Which is which for already core developers, maybe that they will feel totally confident on doing that, like, hey, Fulvio, please review that. But maybe others will be a bit more hesitant, or maybe don't even know how to ping as well. So if there's any ideas, or if you happen to like all your pain points while contributing, please either put them here on CMF Plone or so that we can, or community, we can discuss that on community.
First of all, I want to say thank you for all the work that you've done, because it really has gotten so much easier. So that's great. One thing, I know that, where is it? Labels. I know that Jens created a whole set of labels, a whole set of, what do you call them?
Yeah, well, so he sort of like put some categories on the labels. Yeah, sure.
And some of them are actually sort of workflow related.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
The two.
status.
Yeah.
And I'm still so confused about those. I just never know what to do with those.
Yeah.
So if any of that could be automated in some way, that would be great.
Well, one of so as running tests, it's so much time consuming, and maybe you just create the pull request because you do it like through the web. You just edit the file, but then of course, like for example, there's the changelog verifier that probably will yell you that it's missing, and so on. Then you edit. I was thinking that probably maybe so that before so to automatically trigger a Jenkins, so automatically run these jobs, if you add a certain label, so like for example this testing, so as soon as you say it's on testing phase, then you can start. But definitely like if more or less the idea of this is that it's like a confirmed, in progress, testing, ready, and deferred, probably we could like automatically add the, well, in progress probably.
Yeah.
And then once you manually move it to testing, I mean, we can of course just create some comments here like, please add this label as soon as you feel that this or that. So we could add the testing level, or if manually added the testing level, then Jenkins will start. And then if everything is fine, Jenkins can change that to ready, and that can trigger that. Or that can be the final state, so to say, in this pipeline. And then if 3 weeks later, all the pull requests that are still ready, but nobody merged them, then start pinging the people every now and then. And then maybe you can just move it to deferred if you don't want to get bothered by that, because maybe it has to wait for something.
One thing, I'm not sure if there is anything that's matching, but one thing I noticed is that a lot of times people create pull requests that are just so that tests are started automatically, and they say, please do not merge, do not do anything with it, do not merge and stuff. That probably should have a
tag.
Yeah,
actually, there's sure that would be a good idea. There's another thing that all these checks here, I can't remember really, but I think it's somewhere here on the settings that you can make them mandatory. So like if that check is not green, cannot be merged. So and in a way that's probably something that we want to do at some point. I think I can't remember. But but the thing is, yeah, there's all these work in progress pull requests that you don't want to merge. And actually, Jens, on one of his cleanup pull request tasks, he just ignores everything and he says, "Oh yeah, the label was that and that, so I did merge." And it was like, well, yeah, but I did say there. So if you didn't, so there's, for example, in GitLab, you can, if the name of the issue starts with work in progress, so WIP, then it doesn't allow you to merge. It already say, well, it's kind of like here because now there's conflicts. So yeah, there's some process that could be improved here as well.
It's a minor thing, but
no, but again, it's some pains that you take away from people, and like, or especially when you have pull requests that depend on other pull requests and they have to be merged either together or sequentially, so to say. Then of course you want to like really do that. And that's again the problem with GitHub and having having the choose the repositories. It's all the limits that I look for. On the other hand, it's also our problem for splitting into multiple repositories. There's lots of large organizations that, for example, I read about Google and I think even Microsoft, for some projects that they had, like usually, I mean, just like us, like they had hundreds and hundreds of packages. They decided to just create one massive Git repository. Of course, it would be like a bit too much, maybe, like if you look at the drop down of branches or so on, because it can be like a bit daunting. But then everything about testing and integration and releases and everything and conflicts and so on, that will be just so gone. That's.
I'm sure GitHub they're probably thinking about a way to accommodate this kind of use case.
Maybe.
We don't know, but
we don't know.
Seems like a very common thing.
Sure, but they also target. Well, now that they added these reviews and these projects, starts to feel like they are really moving not just to code repository and code review, but also to project management. Maybe they do that. Maybe they just do that for enterprise, the enterprise version. Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, that's still a problem for us, for ourselves. We need to find a solution that works better, and because so far we have just patches, and the way Jenkins is configured so that we can do all of that, it's sort of insane if you compare it to just, like, for example, what people is used to, that it's just Travis. Like, you just put that file, connect it to Travis, and everything works. Sure, we are not a single package, we cannot really do that, but we should be able somehow to get closer, at least. Yeah.
And a big plus one for the idea of adding a requirement to add documentation, like Mr. Roboto.
This changelog verifier, you mean?
No.
Or for the docs, when. Yeah, the problem with this is that as here you can only have, well, actually we have all of them here. You can have like okay, working, and failure. Yeah. It's kind of like, well, if we agree in what's the logic to decide if something should have docs or not, but then it's also like, well, maybe I refactored something, but it's already explained somewhere because I'm just merging two packages, so to say, in the package it's already well explained. Yeah. So that's a bit of, maybe just a comment. It's probably enough. Like, okay, you are adding quite a lot of changes here. You may want to think about going to the documentation repository and do contributions there, explaining the feature, or at least creating an issue explaining that you are about to do that, so that we document things. But yeah, definitely that's. I mean, when previously there was this talk about Plone versus Drupal, there Kelvin was saying that yeah, Plone is really good in terms of documentation for upgradings, because there's all the documentation. But at least for the Plone 5 one, that's was most of the things were there. Lots of things actually were there, but there were like some big gaps on that. And I don't really see us as a community making much change in there. Yeah. Again, it's on the app side. I feel myself contributing quite a lot on the documentation, because I know that it's maintained and I know that there's people there caring about it. So that's also something that probably already started. If we have, if the docs team has also is also moving more to engaging a bit more with like continuous delivery, or so that you can see the fixes that you make. That's probably a bit more appealing to contribute there, and like, okay, there's all these. I mean, every now and then I'm just fixing broken links or things, or links that point to svnzob.org or things like that, and just point them to the new places. But that's already like the cleanup and the minimal. Yeah.
Well, just checking in.
Okay. Sorry.
Because we have birthday cake.
Oh, done.
Birthday cake and
So thanks for listening. I know that not going to David Glick was challenging. I mean, probably everyone was there, but oh well. Hmm?
about you said that people don't get that playing on
Yeah.
that. Maybe it could be a little tricky if you are adding or modifying something, for example, CSS or
Yeah, but I want to at least. I mean, I have no code done for that, although it would be tricky to do. I mean, it will be trivial. Sorry, but in a way, I want to add that, maybe not as a check, like you have to add them,